Yes guys, welcome back to another video. Welcome to the George Benson Football Channel. Today we have got Chelsea news. I'm going to try as best as I can to summarise what is going on with the new appointment of the next Chelsea manager. Chelsea's new manager. We don't know who it's going to be yet. There are journalists trying to tell us that they do. But at the moment, I'm going to try and dissect all of the different reports, talk about all the favourites, and then come to some kind of conclusion, really, as to all of the different stories we're hearing about the reasons behind Graham Potter being sacked. We're going to dive into that in today's video. But of course, despite all of the commotion about the sacking of Graham Potter and the appointing of the next Chelsea manager, we cannot forget that Chelsea are playing Liverpool tonight, 8 o'clock, Stamford Bridge in the Premier League. Very easy to forget this, but what a fixture it is. And if you want to see my preview for this game, where I give Bruno Saltor, he's never picked a starting 11 before in his life. It's his first time in the dugout as the manager, and it's against Jurgen Klopp's Liverpool. It could be a disaster, but who knows? Maybe Bruno is the man. Preview link in the description. And whilst you're at it, subscribe to this YouTube channel so you don't miss anything else. And hit the like button on this video if you've been enjoying the not hourly updates, because that would just be a little bit overkill, but every few hours there's a new video for you to feast your eyes on. We have seen many different reports over the course of the last 48 hours talking about who the new Chelsea manager is going to be. Some journalists say that it's done with Julian Nagelsmann. Chelsea have already contacted Nagelsmann and he's set to become the next Chelsea manager. Couple of things here. I do believe that whoever Chelsea are looking to appoint, because of some of the main managers that we're after are out of a job, I certainly think that some of the frameworks in terms of contacting these managers would have been done maybe even prior to the sacking of Graham Potter. I think to sack Graham Potter now, to let Bruno take over, is an interesting one, because Bruno worked under Graham Potter. So to think that the identity of Chelsea can change that much by employing Bruno for these games when the Real Madrid game is seen as the make or break for that tie, it's an interesting one, because some people will tell you that Bruno's footballing philosophy is similar to that of Pep Guardiola as opposed to Graham Potter. But tonight we'll really see whether or not Graham Potter was the problem, or was it just all of his staff in general. And will Chelsea rush this process, which over the course of the last few videos I've been discussing Julian Nagelsmann as the main one because he seems to be the favourite. We've gone into detail about Ruben Amorim, who seems to be the outsider but one that people really like. Luis Enrique, who I would say is the joint front runner right now with Nagelsmann. And then you've got some flashy debates regarding the likes of Zinedine Zidane, and then you've kind of got the taboo subject of Mauricio Pochettino, because Chelsea fans right now, if Pochettino was to come in, and let's say we get knocked out by Real Madrid, get a few more dodgy results in the league, the fact of the matter is, the fan base's opinion is not going to be any different. The expression of Chelsea fans will not change. Pochettino, out of all of these managers, has the hardest curve to get fans on side. And in terms of working with the players, I do think whoever comes in is probably going to immediately get something out of these players, because there's such a talented crop of players. Now, a lot of the stories that we're hearing at the moment as to some of the real reasons behind, I guess you can say, the results, because when you hear stuff along the lines of Graham Potter was called Harry or Hogwarts behind his back, this is a lack of respect. You wouldn't see, let's just use an example, Reece James going behind Zinedine Zidane's back, calling him double Z in like an offensive, sarcastic way. Not that is offensive whatsoever. And neither is calling someone Hogwarts, to be quite frank about it. But to reference him to a TV film, Harry Potter, it is disrespectful. When you think about the connotations behind all of it, like, Chelsea weren't doing anything magic on the football field, so to use the reference of the most famous magician in the history of time is ever so slightly sarcastic. So when you hear the stories that these kind of names are being branded towards Graham Potter behind his back from some of the players would have been forming cliques. There would have been some players who I absolutely do believe were told by Chelsea Football Club to publicly support him, because I think the board have been aware for some time that this wasn't going to work. It wasn't working. It was progressively not working, and foreshadowing the future was never going to work. And I think a lot of the fronts that we've seen from both the way Potter's been talking and the player interviews that we've seen, I think a lot of this was a cover-up to the fact that, well, a couple of things. Maybe Chelsea are waiting for the next financial year to sack Graham Potter, which is one thing. But the second one is maybe because they realised that the screw-up with this appointment was just so big on a profile scale, Chelsea needed to make contingency plans. And you can argue that if we see a new manager appointed before the game against Real Madrid, then it must have been something in the pipeline with conversations potentially had before the official announcement of Graham Potter's sacking. It wouldn't be the first time that football clubs have gone and tried to set up a new managerial appointment while still having the existing manager in charge. And a bit like what we saw when Potter was appointed. Thomas Tuchel loses that game against Zagreb. We're led to believe it wasn't because of that individual result, which I do believe. But then within about a day, 2 days, Graham Potter is Chelsea's manager. I wouldn't be surprised if after this Liverpool game, we see either a Nagelsmann, an Enrique, a Pochettino become Chelsea's manager. If we look at Nizar Kinsella reporting for The Standard, Chelsea forming 4-man interview plan as squad sent Potter a message. Another interesting thing. Only, from what I've seen, Madueke and Ben Chilwell, the only 2 players to send Graham Potter a public message thanking him for his service. To me, that isn't a manager who is firmly respected by the players. This isn't a manager who was eternally loved at Chelsea the same way a lot of the players were thanking Thomas Tuchel when he was sacked, and they have done with various other managers since social media has played a prevalent part in the footballing world. Now, if we follow the Times Sport, Chelsea would ideally aim to appoint a new head coach before next week's Champions League tie against Real Madrid, but are determined to complete a robust process in order to reach the right decision. I think if we didn't have this Champions League game against Real Madrid, I would be absolutely okay to wave goodbye to this Premier League season, let Bruno take it till the end, and Chelsea conduct a 2-month rigorous process to get the right man in charge. Unfortunately, but also fortunately, Chelsea do have Real Madrid in the Champions League, and with only 3 potential teams still to beat, we could have another European trophy, which Todd Boehly has said himself, if Chelsea salvage what has been a season where we've sacked 2 managers, so evidently we're not doing very well. If we manage to end this with a European Cup, this is a sensational season. You win a Champions League, it doesn't matter if you get relegated in your division. It's a sensational season. To win the European Cup is a joy to behold. It's the holy grail. Roman Abramovich managed it twice. Sorry, I forget that we actually did win it in 2021. It just seems like such a long time ago now. But it's still doable. Jacob Steinberger said Chelsea want to interview Julian Nagelsmann, Pochettino, Ruben Amorim, Oliver Glasner, don't know much about him but he's Austrian, and Luis Enrique as part of their search for a manager, but are prepared to wait until the summer before appointing a full-time replacement for Graham Potter. Something I've not discussed yet here on GBFC, something that I've seen a lot and I absolutely agree with it. John Terry has said he would never come back into a management role unless it was something to do with the Chelsea first team. Before you click off and my audience retention dies, I'm not talking about John Terry as a manager. I am suggesting, though, potentially let John Terry work in this dressing room until the end of the season. If Chelsea won't appoint someone before Real Madrid, there's no point doing it in the middle of all of this, because it's going to be such an upward battle to get any positivity around. Let John Terry come in there. Explain to some of these players in the dressing room what the Chelsea DNA is, what is important for this football club, and whoever the new manager is permanently, I strongly advise John Terry being someone that you at least ask, you call up to see, do you want to be involved as my right-hand man? Get someone who knows Chelsea inside and out and that bleeds blue in the dressing room. I'll even send him a message on Instagram myself and tell him this has got to be done. JT, get out there and help this club out. We absolutely need it right now. Chelsea have lost so much identity. Graham Potter didn't provide any kind of Chelsea DNA, identity, fabric, all of these words that really connect us as fans to Chelsea Football Club. At the moment, the names I keep seeing are Luis Enrique, Ruben Amorim, Julian Nagelsmann, and Maurizio Pochettino. Paul Winstanley and Lawrence Stewart are going to be the people overseeing this entire process. If I was to make a prediction right now, I would say it's between Nagelsmann and Luis Enrique. But because Maurizio Pochettino is also out of a job, has admirers at board level at Chelsea, I wouldn't write him off either. I think, like I said in my video yesterday, talking about Ruben Amorim, why would you leave Sporting Lisbon now? You at least want to, at the end of the season, try and win them a European trophy. Who knows, though? The pull of Chelsea is a massive one. We've seen many journalists saying it's hard for any manager to decline it, which leads me to the final story here. Thomas Tuchel's comments. Have you guys seen it? I can't upload the interview because, well, I wouldn't be allowed. Someone would give me a copyright strike. But Thomas Tuchel was asked about Graham Potter. And some of the interesting comments about this is, it does seem, you can read it on the screen here, what he said. It seems as though Tuchel, if you read into this, right, Tuchel might have even said yes if he was asked before he took that Bayern Munich job. If Chelsea would have sacked Potter a couple of weeks ago, from these words from Tuchel, you can read into it, and you could believe that if he was asked nicely, a couple of pleases, sorries and thank yous, he could have been Chelsea's manager again. I'm only saying this in jest. It was never really tangibly going to happen. It's not a feasible thought. But there's also, as well, it's very interesting where he says it's not the same club. Things are different. Things have changed. Certainly has, but the hiring and firing culture is there more than ever, twice in a season. Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below as to what you think is going to happen with the managerial appointment for the new Chelsea manager. Check out the Liverpool preview and all of the previews, I guess, for all of the potential managers. Link to all of the videos in the past couple of days down below. Pick something you fancy, get yourself a cup of tea, get yourself a glass of water and a protein shaker if you're feeling really, really eccentric and extravagant. I'll see you guys after the game for 6 things we learned. Come on, you Blues.